they have not been done before ever in the history of this country. That is why we're able to increase our revenue generation locally, to the extent that most of the projects are locally financed, to the extent that now most of the budget is financed is funded locally. And we've seen how GRE has also increased their revenue collection from 50 million years ago to now 2.7, $2.6 billion is amount.
But Honorable, here the National Audit Office recently released its report covering, of course, government accounts for the past years, past 3 years. Definitely, revealing major financial
transition as well. Some of these things are legacies, leftovers by the previous government. So obviously, government is taking note of the audit reports, and the government will do the needful. Where there is a need for prosecution, government will prosecute. Where there is a need for strengthening institutions, government will do. But we respect the audit reports, we respect the work of the auditors, and we'll take note. That is what auditors do. Audit is to ensure that in so far as the use of public finance are concerned, due process is followed, and that there are strong oversight mechanisms.
So has the cabinet at any point discussed these audit reports? And if yes,
what were the cabinet? No, that is not the job of cabinet to discuss audit reports. That goes to the National Assembly. That is why the procedure is that when the auditors are done this to the National Assembly, that when the report is finally validated, now they can look at it and say that, okay, here we suspect fraud. The competent body to investigate further is the police. It goes to the police for investigation. Police investigates and realize that, yes, there is ample evidence to suggest that there is malfeasance, there is fraud, there is criminal activity. Now they send their evidence to the AG chambers for review and advice. And so the AG chambers looks at this and says, well, there is enough evidence for prosecute, and they prosecute. That's how it works in a normal democracy.
How many prosecutions have been done so far?
Well, like I said, it's a process. Currently, there are a few prosecutions. I don't know the numbers exactly, but remember, when it goes to the courts, the executive now has done their job. It's for the courts to do. We live in a democracy now where there are 3 arms of government, each independent of each other, and each checks and balances each other. Now, we cannot seem to be interfering with the work of the courts. What is important is that there is the political will from the side of the government to ensure that impunity is history in this country. And the president himself has made that statement that there are no sacred cows or sacred institutions. If the audit office can be given the latitude and the power to even audit the IEC, NAWEC, and other big institutions, it means that we are serious about this. And that we want to ensure that public finances are judiciously managed and that in their use, due process is followed. That is why we strengthen the National Audit Office and give them the latitude to do their work. Now, if the audit is done and a process is followed, and there is suspicion of criminal activity, obviously it will go to the police for prosecution. And that is what is happening.
But one will say, government's response seems to be very slow.
No, but listen, like I said, it's a democracy. And sometimes you don't rush justice. If an audit query or an audit flags an activity which is seen to be outside of the framework of the law for Mr. Aliou Ceesay, due process must be followed. Sometimes due process can take time. Anywhere in the world, due process normally takes time. Because, you don't want to send somebody to jail and that person is innocent.
But the person can put on administrative leave.
No, but we've done that. Now we've sent people on administrative leave. For the SWEAT project, people on administrative leave. Even with GPPC, the currently directors on administrative leave.
But why didn't the government come out on time to tell the public that all this was happening? You only revealed this thing after the Gala protest.
If you tell me that communication could have been better, perhaps I could agree with you. But that, for us, these are things that we do our work. People have been sent on administrative leave. In NAWEC, they sent 2 on administrative leave. For the SWEAT project, people on administrative leave. For GPPC, they're on administrative leave. So action has been taken while pending the criminal prosecution.
Are you surprised that all this thing was happening?
No, I'm not surprised. Like I said, the political will is there to fight corruption. Like I said, what this government has done to fight corruption, no government has done it. I can tell you that the reforms are very precise and robust. We've come up with new procurement laws. We are now working on new public-private partnership laws. We've amended the Central Bank Act. We've also ensured that we now, the Anti-Corruption Commission now is soon to be operationalized. Commissioners have been appointed. We've also gone digital in so far as government payments are concerned. We've done a lot of reforms within the public service just to ensure that we fight corruption. But like the challenges are still there that we grapple with, all countries grapple with them. That is why we do the audits. to be able to identify gaps and make sure that we close those gaps.
So what do you think should be the government's immediate stance?
Insofar
in addressing all this, the issue of all this corruption within government and of course the
no, but government is taking, we are tightening the loop. Now it's difficult. Before, there are things that were, for example, Impress was something that was accepted. Now we've stopped those things based on the recommendations of the Jammeh Commission, but also of audit recommendations. Now it's very difficult for anybody to steal from government coffers because the process is very, very rigorous in terms of, and also watertight. Nobody can really steal from government coffers anymore in a manner that is blatant. So there are challenges. We are now, that is why we are also reducing the use of cash in public services. That is why now we are going digital. Payments are done in the banks. You've seen GRA sign a MOU with different banks in this country just to ensure that people pay using digital payments. So like I said, there are challenges. Government is doing what it can. We've done a lot of reforms in the past 2-3 years to ensure that we reduce corruption, promote accountability, promote transparency, but also at the same time ensure that public funds are judiciously used.
But why are certain cases still delayed? I mean, the case of the Gambia Post Authority, the 300 million.
I'll tell you something.
That case has been dragging for many years. I mean,
no, it's not many.
For many years. I mean, if there is one senior officer who's been prosecuted for corruption, was the former PS of Fisheries, Banja, who was later pardoned by the president.
Like I said, you see, I think the public should understand one thing. Building
Isn't that giving people the room to say, okay, we can do whatever we want, nothing will come out of it?
No, let me tell you something.
People can take advantage. Okay, he's the president, he's very lenient. I mean,
no, it's not about this is not about the, it's about the law. It's about the law. What is important for people to understand is that building evidence in cases of corruption is a very complex work, and it's very difficult to really get strong evidence. Now, that's the basic principle in law in the Gambia, that you are innocent until proven guilty. But there's another principle which says that if you are to be sentenced or convicted, the prosecution must prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. What that means is that today, if there's an audit query on your ministry, for example, the audit is done.
Which you had?
No, you have a, let's say we have a ministry of water, ministry of whatever, which you had. Yeah. And an audit was done in that agency or institution. And the audit flagged some discrepancies insofar as the numbers are concerned. It's passed to the National Assembly, and they realize that yes, these are serious, these discrepancies cannot be explained. There is suspicion of fraud or criminal activity. The competent body to investigate further and build a case so they can prosecute you successfully is the police. Now, and that process is where that takes time, because the police will have to build a case and charge you on different charges, and each charge must be weighed against on strong evidence. When the police are done and believe that now they've charged you and they have enough evidence to be able to get prosecuted and send it to AG for review and advice, the AG will look at it and advise the police that, look, yes, these charges are good, but the evidences are not, if it goes to court, we lose this case. They send it back to the police and they flag some gaps and weaknesses and send it back. So that back and forth until they get watertight case, because you don't want to rush cases to the court and lose all the cases and they are free.
Is it also likely that maybe they are trying to throw certain cases under the carpet just to bury them?
But why would we do that? Why? In whose interest? Why?
To cover certain people, perhaps.
Why would we cover certain people? Like I said, the president has made it very clear that his government has a zero tolerance on corruption. That will never happen in this country, but you need to follow due process. And it's not only unique to Gambia. Go to other countries, even the US and other countries. Go to other countries. Cases like this sometimes drag it because you need to build a strong case. Otherwise, you'll be rushing cases to the courts and the courts will free them. Recently, let me give you an example. The guys who were accused of selling, I think, diplomatic passports, they were freed because they could not prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. You don't want to be taking cases to court and the people are freed. So you need to take your time, make sure you build a strong case, even if it takes 3, 4, 5 years, but at least you know that now if it goes to court, there'll be prosecution. There'll be conviction.
And you mentioned about the National Audit Office. I mean, we know how controversial it was when the Auditor General was removed. I mean, he was claimed to be appointed as Trade Minister, which he declined. What is actually delaying the appointment of a new Trade Minister?
Well, I don't know. The person with the prerogative to appoint a minister is the president, and he'll make that decision when the time is right.
But why did he, in the first place, choose to even remove the AG?
That matter is in the courts, and I cannot discuss it. It's in the courts.
So for how long should we continue to wait for him to appoint a trade minister?
Well, I know the prerogative to appoint a minister is with the president, and he will make that decision when he thinks the time is right and when he finds a suitable person. But for now, the matter is in the courts, and it's a matter that I cannot discuss because it is in the courts.
As we speak, if there's one thing that is in everyone's mind and lips, is the planned return of former President Yaya Jammeh from Equatorial Guinea. What is the government's official stance?
Well, I think we've communicated our official stance that Yaya Jammeh is a citizen, a private citizen who is in self-exile in Equatorial Guinea. He's free to come back home, but when he comes home, he'll face justice. That's our official stance.
Is the government really prepared at this stage for Jammeh to return home?
I cannot respond to that. What I'm telling you is that our official position is that he's a private citizen living in self-exile in another country. He is free to come back home, but when he comes, he will face justice.
Is the government prepared to welcome him?
Well, he will face justice if he comes back home to the Gambia.
But others also believe it could serve as a form of reconciliation or promoting peace. So how does the government intend to balance between justice and peace?
Well, what peace is that? I mean, there is no peace without justice. What I'm telling you is that our position is that when Jammeh comes back to this country, he will face justice. It's as simple as that.
And many will say, yes, government is talking about justice, but victims of Jammeh are still suffering. If definitely government is committed to, the welfare of these victims, something should have been done for them.
Yeah, but we've set up
most of them are still struggling.
But we've set up the Victims Reparations Commission. It's part of one of the recommendations of the TRRC. Commissioners have gone to work. These things take time to do. And all countries that have undergone this, even today in South Africa from Atta, there are victims who are still struggling. They are still traumatized. In Rwanda, after genocide, people are still traumatized. It takes time. But the government has done a lot to support victims, make sure that we've set up the Victims Reparations Commission. The commissioners are working to support the victims. So and also there is funding for that. So, yes, it sometimes can take time, but these things are complex. It's not like just wake up and solve these things. But what is important is that as part of the TRRC recommendation, government has set up the Victims Reparations Commission, which has started work to make sure that victims are well compensated.
That's the party leader, of course, the interim party of the APRC. We saw a press release later that they said, they were going to submit to the president of course, ECOWAS and other UN bodies. Could you share with us has the government or the president received this?
Well, I cannot respond to that. I cannot respond to that particular question. With regards to the Yaya Jammeh issue, I think our position is clear as a government. And I think I'll repeat that. Yaya Jammeh is a private citizen living in exile in Equatorial Guinea. He's free to come back home if he so wishes. But if he does, he'll face justice. I think there is nothing clearer than that, Aliu.
Are you in touch with the government of Equatorial Guinea or ECOWAS or any other body?
We don't have to be in touch with anybody. Gambia is a sovereign state, and we have laws. There was a TRRC, and there were recommendations, and it was adversely mentioned. And there was a recommendation to prosecute people like him and his ilk for crimes they committed against Gambians.
I say the government is not giving guarantee that they're going to ensure his security and safety.
The government has what it takes. We have the capacity to secure and provide security at any level. Well, that is not our worry. Like I said, I don't want to go into the issue. I don't want to waste my 1 hour here to talk about Yaya Jammeh. For me, he's not that relevant for me to waste my 1 hour talking about him. What I can tell you is that if he comes back, he'll face justice. He's free to come back. And the president has said that. The government has sent a press release. I don't think we need to belabor on this matter, to be honest.
Let's now, proceed. We understand the president is planning to embark on his annual, constitutionally mandated meet the people tour. Is this tour really going to be about policy assessment, public consultation, or is it going to be that political mobilization for the NPP and the president?
Well, like I said, this tour is constitutionally mandated that the president must go at least once a year to meet the people. Now, the president has delivered and has really done a lot in the past 4 years. So therefore, it is only right that he goes around the country to assess those works, but also listen to Gambians and listen to their concerns and their aspirations, as he always does. And let me just, if you permit me, I want to take 2 minutes of your time just to make it clear. People who don't know to know exactly what has been going on. The Gambia is now having one of the strongest economies in the sub-region.
Confirmed by who?
I'll give you the figures.
Okay.
Year-on-year inflation has dropped by 3.6%. Last September, inflation rate was 10%. This September, it came down to 7.4%. And our economy is estimated to grow to 6% by 2020, in 2025, from 5.3 in 2024. That's an economic expansion. Let's look at electricity. We've done a lot. From 1956 to 2016, three governments, the colonial, the PPP, and the APS government, were able to connect only 195,244 meters. Only. From 2017 to date, the president, on his leadership, has connected a total of 203,446. So from 56 to 2016, almost 60 years, only 193,000 meters were connected in the country. From 17 to 25, 7 years, we connect 203,000 meters. But the most important thing is that government has spent $800 million just to subsidize electricity alone in 2025, so Gambians can buy cheaper electricity.
But then
again,
expensive, doctor.
Yeah, but like I said, some of these costs are beyond our control. It's in fact, we have one of the cheapest electricity per kilowatt in the sub-region. That's a fact. But like I said, we are not fully green energy, not transition fully into green energy. We still use hard fuel. And the price of fuel also determines. But government is subsidizing. It could have been even worse, even more. But also, by end of 2025, we'll get 90% connectivity. When the president came to power, only 53...
By December, you mean? By end of December?
Yes. See, let me tell you something. When the president came to power, only 53% of Gambians were connected to the grid. Now we have 75%, a huge increment. And the plan is that by end of 2025, the country will have total connectivity of 90% by end of December, 90%. And the aim is that by the 2026 mid, we'll go universal access. It means every Gambian community will be connected to the grid. I think Gambia will be the first country to achieve that in the sub-region. Now, let's look at roads. From 1965 to 2016, they built only 855 kilometers of roads, and this includes new roads, rural roads, feeder roads, and urban roads, only 855. But from 2017 to date, the president has built over 1,200 kilometers of roads in this period. These are double the length of the network.
Does that include the more talk about Hakalang Road?
Of course, yeah, which is 85.
So happy these days.
Which is 85, and we are now rolling another extra 550 kilometers on top of that. Now you move from that, you go to youth and women empowerment. We have spent $250 million to invest in young people. We have also spent another extra $95 million as part of the Women Enterprise Fund to support women enterprises in this country to expand their business. What have we also done?
Okay.
We have solar-powered 162 schools in this country. Okay. We have also built 424 schools from 2017 to date. We have also built over 6,000 classrooms from 2024 to date. We have provided water in 2025 alone, 68 communities were given water, benefiting almost 56,000 people. Our investments in agriculture are unmatched. We buy fertilizer at the market price of $2,900 and sell it to farmers at $1,100. Government subsidizes $1,800 for them. We buy their groundnuts at $38,000 per ton, and we sell it for $20,000 per ton in the world market. Government subsidizing $18,000 for the farmers, which goes to the farmers' pockets. In healthcare, as of 2016, we had only 60 ambulances countrywide. Now we have 170 ambulances countrywide, from 60 to 170. Apart from that, we've constructed 6 health posts, and we've constructed 5 new other health posts. 13 health facilities are under construction, and we are going to renovate 15 of them. All these are investments in education, because the president believes that infrastructure is the basis for any development. What has been missing, or what has been the missing link in our development, is the infrastructure. Before any country moves, you must build your infrastructure. It's the basis. Education infrastructure, that is why we are building 10 classrooms a week. Energy infrastructure, that is why we are modernizing our grid and doing a transition to green energy through these many solar projects happening in this country. Health infrastructure, we are building healthcare centers across the country. including Farah 2,500-bed hospital. Road infrastructure. We are building roads across the country, from Hakalang Nyomi to Sankandi in Kiang West, to Kabada, to Basse.
Really?
If you go to Kiang West,
Kabada?
Of course, Kabada has now 3 different routes now. I was going to Kabada 3-4 years ago. It took me 2-3 hours from Quinala inside to Kabada. But now it takes you 10-15-20 minutes you are inside Kabada because of the roads that the president is building there. Bringing water, electricity, and education and healthcare to communities that never dreamt of having this, and roads never have this before. Imagine being a village in the Gambia, paying your taxes for 56, 57 years. You never had a health post, a classroom, a school, roads, electricity, and water. The president has brought it to them for the first time in their history. For the first time, rural communities can drink cold water without going to buy ice somewhere to drink cold water. All these are investments by the president. And the president has a vision. His vision is not only to build a stable, secure, democratic society, but also to build the foundations that will ensure that generations to come will be able to build this country so that every Gambian can live a dignified life. That is his vision.
Doctor, granted, I mean, you've highlighted, I mean, most of the developments that are currently ongoing and those that have been completed. You talk about the issue of women and youth empowerment, youth and, of course, women and youth support. I mean, share with us, how do you identify the beneficiaries of these projects? Many say all of these things is being politicized.
No, it's not politicized.
Perhaps it's given to, I mean, people who tend to align with the NPP.
No, there are agencies. There are operational agencies for the ministries. For example, if you look at the Ministry of Youth and Sport, they have NEDI. They have the National Youth Council. They work with the ministry and identify potential beneficiaries. But remember also, our investments are not only supporting youth entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs, but also building their capacity and their skills, giving them the tools to succeed in a global economy. Remember, we've built so many multi-purpose vocational training institutes through the Ministry of Higher Education. We've built a multi-purpose vocational institute in Kanilai, in Julangel, in Wasu, another place. We are building specialized ones. We are building one in Tujeran, which is only for agribusiness. Sorry, only for aquaculture, only for fishes. We're also building another specialized one in Pachar, where they just learn agribusiness. We've also expanded universities. We've transformed the Gambia College into a teacher university. We've transformed MDI into a civil service university. We've built a new USET university where now we're building homegrown engineers, homegrown technicians, homegrown computer scientists. And we're also expanding UTG. Currently, the government is giving more than 3,000 scholarships to young Gambians across the country so that they can be able to build their skills. See, no government can give money to every youth. No government can provide job for every youth. What the government can do is to lay the foundations, make sure that the playing field is, there's a conducive environment for people to invest in this country so young people can work, but also young people can employ themselves. How do they employ themselves? Give them the skills they need to survive in this world so they can benefit themselves and their country.
You talk about inflation. You gave us figures that on paper looks very promising, but in reality, people don't actually feel these figures. I mean, the high cost of living is something that people are complaining about every day.
No. The figures, we've stabilized the prices in the past couple of months.
Really, Doctor?
Yeah, they're stabilized. You cannot tell me that.
What have been stabilized?
What I'm saying is, you cannot tell me that.
Let's
look at rice. Let's look at rice, for example.
Give me an example.
Let's look at rice, the
Yeah.
staple food. You cannot tell me that the prices are skyrocketing every day. Now they hover around $1,008, $1,009, but up to $2,000. Jar oil is selling it for $1,900. Jar rice, and also even I buy it. So it's not like I don't know. They hover around that. They are not skyrocketing. They are not going to $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. They are hovering, and in fact, today you can get the wholesale for $1,700 for wholesale rice.
Where?
From I don't want to call companies because I'll be advertising for them.
Yeah.
But what I'm telling you is that the wholesale market prices are around $1,700, $1,800. If you go to the retail market prices, they hover around $1,900 to $2,100 per rice. It has been stable.
I know for a reason, if I want to buy a bag of rice in my village, Dongoroba, 2,300 and above.
Like I said, it depends. I mean, also the people who sell it have to put their profit margin on top of it. So what I'm telling you, that is the fact that they've not skyrocketed and prices have been stabilized. The price of onions,
how much is the price of a bag of
I mean, I
onion?
don't know the exact price. What I can tell you is that there has not been a case of skyrocketing of price in this country, and they've been stabilized. Yes, people can say that compared to a couple of months ago, but remember, These are global bottleneck dynamics. These are global bottlenecks. I mean, Gambia doesn't produce that much. We are not a producing country. Our industries are still basic. We are not producing some of these things here. We import some of these things. And when the price goes up in the countries where they make it, but also logistics-wise, globally, you know, remember after COVID, many things changed. It affected the world market.
But don't you think government also could have done better? For example, maybe farmers in Kabada, where I come from, I mean, they might even want to wait for someone, a businessman, to invest in agriculture for them to be able to feed themselves. Just get them the equipment and,
But government has done that. We've procured 180 tractors recently. We've distributed 60. It's all part of supporting farmers.
Are they free?
No, but government is paying almost 50% for you.
That's the problem. So how many farmers? How many farmers can afford to
but
get
name
those
me
tractors?
any country in the world, even the rich country, that gives free tractors to farmers.
But the government can give free fertilizer to farmers.
What government can do, government is ensuring they get fertilizer at a very cheap price. Government is subsidizing it. Remember, Gambia is not a resource-rich country. We have limited resources, and we have to provide education. We have to pay teachers. We have to build schools. We have to provide security. We have to employ security, buy them vehicles and cars, build police stations for visibility, and make sure we employ and recruit police officers. We have to ensure that there is healthcare. We have to buy medicine. In fact, Gambia is one of the few countries in Africa that gives free medicine in the hospitals. It doesn't happen in the hospitals.
Free medicine?
Basic in the hospitals. It doesn't happen anywhere.
But in most cases, you go to the hospital, you don't even get these drugs. They refer to the pharmacies.
But you cannot get every drug for every ailment in a hospital.
But there's no single time that you go to the hospital and you get all the drugs that you need.
But there are sometimes
many times they refer to the pharmacies.
What I'm saying is that sometimes you go, there is drugs and they give it to you. In fact, other countries, you have to pay for it, you have to buy it. Now, we have to provide healthcare. You have to support farmers. Gambia, the government cannot do everything, but at least we are doing what we can under the circumstances.
Doctor, in your own opinion, how do you think government should be able to address the issue of this perception that, okay, most of the drugs that government procured, I mean, tend to end up in private pharmacies?
Well, these are things that we cannot verify. I cannot verify. People say it, we don't know. I know that there are stringent controls to ensure that these drugs that are procured by government are used in a manner in which they were procured.
So how come when you go to the hospital, they tell you exactly which pharmacy you can get those drugs from? How do they know?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's in their mind. I cannot answer that question. Yeah. But what I can tell you is that government is committed to ensure that at least basic medication is available in every healthcare facility. Now, like I said, these medicines are not made in this country. They have to be procured. And remember, government procurement process is cumbersome.
But
so sometimes...
Doctor, here's the problem. If government is committed and government is investing millions to import drugs, and yet you have some people who are just after their selfish interest, take these drugs and take it to private pharmacies, the problem, now the blame comes back to the government.
Well, that's a problem of attitude as citizens. What I'm saying, government is doing everything to make sure there are controls to ensure these medicines are used in a manner in which they are supposed to be used. That is
to control that, I mean, you need to get all these government procured supplies to have a label, maybe with the government flag. Wherever you see in private pharmacies, you will know that this is government procured medication for Gambians.
That's a good proposal. I hope the Minister of Health is listening. He'll take note of that proposal. What I can tell you is that as a government, we are committed to ensuring that all health facilities have at least basic medication for the citizens, at least basic medication. Now, sometimes there are supply chain bottlenecks that can happen. For example, the procurement process, like I said, is cumbersome. Before it comes, it takes time. Sometimes the vendors might not deliver on time, and there are shortages. It happens. But we are committed to ensuring that every Gambian, when you go to a healthcare facility, no matter where you are, whether Dongoroba or Bijilo, you will have access to the basic medication. Now, we cannot give... People have different ailments. A hospital cannot know a priori all the ailments that people will come with. So they cannot stock medicine for every ailment in this country. There are those that are suffering from high blood pressure, those from diabetes, those from different ailments. But at least basic medicine, should be available, and that is our commitment.
But is it because, okay, many will say, okay, maybe because most of the government, senior government officials, they don't go to these public hospitals, so perhaps that's why they don't also tend to care that much.
I cannot speak for
that
other
they all
officials.
go to private clinic for their maybe overseas treatment because they have the opportunity to go and have their overseas treatment.
Like I said, I cannot speak for other public officials, hospital-going habits. What I can speak of is myself. I go to AFSTH whenever I have a health issue or whenever my family has health issues.
Maybe, Doctor, you are a minister. When you go there, I mean, the privileges that you get, perhaps someone who is from somewhere else might not get those privileges, might not get that special attention.
Well, I've not seen those privileges. When I go there, I go like a simple person and I go and get treated.
Yes, you
like
go there as
else.
a simple, but in your capacity as a minister, doctor, there's no way you will walk into the hospital and then, you join the queue.
Ali, we've many investments in healthcare sector, and the results are out there for people to see. Maternal mortality has gone down drastically by almost 38% in the past couple of years. We are treating different ailments in this country. We are one of the best cardiologists units in the sub-region at EFSTH. We are doing operations here, surgeries here that we never did before in this country. We are training specialists, we are training consultants, we are training doctors. We've increased our stock of healthcare personnel, be it dentists, be it midwives, be it nurses, being medical. We've increased them and trained them locally through the postgraduate program at EFSTH. So these are all investments. We've built state-of-the-art healthcare facilities in Jali in Kiang, in Tumanna in Basse, in Mankamang in Basse, in Sisemajao in Jokado, in Salikenya in Central Badibu. And these are all healthcare facilities. If you go there, you've seen the equipment, particularly in the maternity wards, ensuring that Gambian women give birth in dignity. That is the fact. And we've trained also today, we are proud that even our big main referral hospitals in Farafenni and Biam have locally trained Gambian consultants and specialists, providing proper healthcare service to Gambians. We are building health posts everywhere. Like I said, we've increased our ambulance stock from 60, from 2016 to 170, so that every health post has an ambulance. Every village almost that has health post has an ambulance. I think these are investments we have to look at. Now, yes, here and there drugs might be missing, but let that not really overshadow the very many great work that we are doing in the healthcare sector.
You are the Minister of Information. You once said the government intends to bring order to the way the media operates in the Gambia. And you specifically mentioned the issue of the online media platforms. I mean, could you clarify what order means here?
Well, I think we need to do we have what we call the new media reforms that the ministry is embarking on. Remember, new media is here to stay. But when we were making regulations to regulate the media as a whole, the media, the information ecosystem, there was no new media. That is why now if you look at the regulation, it only regulates TV, radio, and newspapers. But the online media is not regulated. But they are doing the same work as the other traditional media. But there is no accountability for them. There's accountability for QTV and other radio stations. If you do things that are outside of the framework of your license, what your license permits, there will be consequences. But the online media that you are competing with for the same customers, for the same base, doing the same job, nobody holds them accountable because they are not regulated. Now that has to stop. We need to regulate them so there will be accountability. So there are some guidelines they have to follow.
Could that mean controlling them?
No, it's not about, are we controlling QTV?
I'm just asking.
No, are we controlling QTV?
No,
aren't you regulated?
I'm just
Don't
asking.
you have a license to operate?
We do.
Are we controlling you? No,
Well,
it's to ensure that you work within the framework of the law and professional ethics. It's not about control, because if it's control, it means we are controlling QTV and other radio stations in this country. Radio stations are licensed, but they do their work without anything.
So
it's to ensure.
How do you balance that regulation with media freedom and independence?
But what I'm saying is that currently, don't we have media outfits in this country operating?
Okay.
Don't we have don't we have radios and newspapers and TV stations operating? They're operating. Aren't we balancing? We are doing the balancing act. The most important thing is that there should be accountability for anybody who's in the information ecosystem, who's providing information services to the public. There should be accountability.
What is the timeline for the proposed?
Very soon we'll work on this. We'll make sure that there are guidelines for the new media, so that they also operate within the framework of the law, and that they can be held accountable, but also they can work in a free space, so that they can be able to also have benefit from the privileges of government. Privileges are many, training privileges. Through our bilateral partners like the People's Republic of China, we've sent many journalists for training to China to build their capacity. Now, for you to benefit from those trainings, you must also be able to work within the framework. You must also be recognized media outfit. We cannot just have a country where anybody can wake up in the morning and call themselves a TV. I've seen it. I've seen people call themselves something online TV, and they start to read news to the public without any control, without no accountability. No country works like that. That is anarchy. There should be some control. There should be guidelines. We are also going to come up with other new media reforms, include making sure that every journalist in this country is accredited. We also cannot allow a situation where anybody can wake up in the morning, I'm a journalist. And it's just like, it's akin to, it's as dangerous as anybody waking in the morning and say, I'm a teacher or I'm a nurse. Because giving information is
I'm a lawyer.
Or I'm a lawyer. there should be at least some standards that must be set for it, because journalists can burn a country if they don't know what that, if they don't understand their trade properly. We've seen how Rwanda started. It's through journalists like that and other countries. So we need to ensure that anybody who is in the trade of journalism, who calls himself a journalist, must have at least some basic minimum requirements and standards, so we know that you are professional and we support you as well. It's not like it's just act, but also all those accredited. Our role is to ensure we build the capacity of media personnel in this country. We cannot do that if there are no standards as well. It's to support them, to grow, to develop as well. But there should be standards that must be set, even no matter how basic they are.
Your ministry has been subject to several fact-checking reports, pointing out to, to what many will say, false and misleading claims in your public statements. As a minister, how easily do you react to those who tend to question the credibility of the information coming out from your office?
Well, I think every government struggles with that. That is the consequences of, like I said, new media. People tend to question the veracity of government information. That's everywhere. In fact, recently I was attending a conference in Praia, in Cape Verde, just to discuss that, because we understand that most countries in the West African region and in the Sahel are facing the problem of information integrity. People question the veracity of information coming from government. Like I said, when people fact check, and we know what we've given to the people, and we've also acted professionally. Whenever we give information which we think is erroneous, we always come out to say that this was erroneous, and we take responsibility. But like some of these fact checks are not done out of goodwill. They have a vicious agenda behind it. There are few people, of course, yes.
Doctor, how?
Look, listen, let me tell you something. Some of these,
there has never
been an instance where the ministry publishes information which is found to be false. It doesn't happen. Now, the fact check I've seen, these are opinions. How can you fact check an opinion? Now, one of the things I remember was when I said that in the sub-region, Gambia has the cheapest fuel price at the pump. Then somebody fact check and say, no, but Nigeria has cheaper. Nigeria is an oil-producing country. When I say sub-region also, I take it out of context. We are cheaper than Senegal, cheaper than Guinea-Bissau, cheaper than Guinea-Conakry, cheaper than Mali, cheaper than Liberia, cheaper than Sierra Leone. That's the sub-region. Now, if you go and say, okay, because I said, and another factor was Gambia is one of the most secure countries in Africa, and somebody fact-checked to say, no, that's not the case. One of the most secure. How can you fact-check that?
And you also said a bag of onion was $400.
That one, I came out to say that. Like I said, we always come out to say that we got that one wrong. We came out to say that was an erroneous statement. And
do you regret when you have that instances where you make a public statement and you realize that...
If you are in the media talking on a daily basis, you are not perfect. You'll make mistakes. The most important thing is you take responsibility for the mistakes you make and apologize for those mistakes. And that's what I do. When I make an erroneous statement, and now definitely it's erroneous, whether someone give it to me or I got it myself, I'll come out to say, because we have no, listen, what would we gain by trying to deceive the public? For what? For what purpose? Nothing. We have no urge for that. We are doing our work, and in the line of your work, you make mistakes. Even you, when you are working here, you make mistakes. Nobody tells me that in the line of your work you don't make mistakes. You make mistakes. It's part of our occupational hazard. We make mistakes, but when we make mistakes, we come out to say that, hey, we've got this one wrong, so that we learn from it and move on. But we have no intention to mislead the public intentionally. We have no. What would we gain from that? Nothing, because we don't have to. In fact, because what is there is that we speak. When we speak, we give the data, we give information accurately. We want to pride ourselves as a ministry that provides proactive disclosure of information that is accurate, authentic, relevant, and timely. That is what we want to pride. We want every Gambian to, when they want information, they come to the Ministry of Information. So why would we undermine that by giving people false information intentionally?
How do you balance, between giving public credible information and on the other side trying to protect the image of government?
No, what I'm saying is that this government is one of the most transparent governments since Gambia became independent. We want to promote transparency. It's not about image. No government is perfect. Obviously, we have no reason to hide anything. When we get it wrong, we'll come out to the public and say, this is the situation. We'll solve it. But we have no reason to make sure that we hide anything. We're not trying to cover up for anybody. It's a government. So we want to be as transparent as possible so people can hold us accountable.
But many will argue that, I mean, government is not as transparent as you tend to put it, Doctor.
Listen, if you are not transparent, we will not bring a law called the Access to Information Law, which gives information holders the legal mandate to make sure that every Gambian who asks for information should be given that information as long as it is not under the exemptions.
But some people say they are still struggling to access certain information. A colleague of mine, Mustafa Kedabo of the Republic, was doing an investigative piece and he sent out a request for access to certain information.
Yeah, but if he sent requests for information which is exempted, like third-party information, private, we cannot deal, because the act is very clear. There are almost 30 exemptions in the law that cannot be divulged, that cannot be given. So if you request information which is part of the exemption, it cannot be given. But government is committed to promoting transparency. That is why if you look at the Ministry of Information, we have the Mansakunda. We bring ministers to come and talk to the public. We have our press conferences, our doors are open. We have the ATR law to make sure that there is more transparency. And then today, the three arms of government are functioning independently. At some point they were fused, but now they are operating independently. The judiciary, the legislature, and the executive checking and balancing each other. That is transparency. And now the government is also committed to making sure that this continues, because we believe, and the president believes, that as part of his legacy, he wants to consolidate the democracy of this country. And you cannot consolidate democracy when the twin elements of transparency and accountability are missing.
I know the budget is currently in Parliament. I mean, the budget for 2026. For the first time, we have seen, I mean, the Minister of Finance have decoupled, I mean, the Office of the Vice President's budget and the Office of the President. Share with us. People are asking, why?
No, but it's for ease of administration. You could leave it there, but I think it's for ease of administration. That should even not be a debate.
Because it has never happened. That's why people are asking why now.
What I'm saying, logically, it should not be a debate. It's for ease of administration. Remember, the Office of the Vice President is now becoming big as well. It has 6 big agencies under it, 6 critical agencies. It has early warning, it has social protection, it has disaster management agency, it has NANA, it has food safety, and it has population. These are critical agencies now, in line with the NDP and where the president wants to take the country to. So for ease of administration, obviously, there's separate budgeting. That makes it easy. Then you lump it at once. And the state is also expanding because there's a lot of work to be done. The state guards are there. And so for me, to be honest, the debate should be the deficit. We've kept the deficit at 1%. Or overall deficit 1%. This is unprecedented.
And 13 billion of our budget is going into debt service.
Yeah, but this debt service...
It's worrying, huh?
No, it's not worrying. This debt service, it's not like we're taking new debts. It's legacy debts. There was a debt suspension at some point, and now you have to pay the debt and its principal. Now, give me an example. If you borrow $100 in 2014, 2012, or 2010, at that time, and you borrow in dollar was $47. It means your debt was $470. And in 2026, you are still paying that debt. And the dollar is now 73. It goes up to 70 something.
But according to SFL, I mean, what the debt that Barra's government took is more than Jammeh and Jawara combined.
Like I said, SFL doesn't know what he's talking about.
But how do you know?
No, but because I know.
Maybe he has done his research and came out with his figures.
SFL doesn't do any research. SFL just comes to the radio and starts spewing. I mean,
but how do you know this? How do you know
because I know, because one of the statements he made too, he said that the Gambia government reduced the budget of key sectors to pay off the debt, which is not true. Because we've increased, in fact, if you look at the budget itself, we've increased the budget allocation for all these ministries like agriculture. For example, agriculture received 1.095 billion 2025. Next year, they are receiving 1.7 billion. Youth and sports receive 700.
This time they are receiving 146 million.
No, 177 billion agriculture.
No, okay, I thought you said youth and sports.
No, youth and sports. They've also increased the allocation from 2020. So, and also youth and sports, he didn't know that most of their activities, development are funded through deploying resources outside the budget, the sports levy. The sports levy supports the Minister of Youth and Sports. So he didn't understand that. But also at the same time, the debt stock, currently the Gambia government's position, our priority is to ensure that we do concessional borrowing, that is low interest rate borrowing, and also we borrow to invest in infrastructure. We're not borrowing to misuse the money. And remember, John Maynard Keynes, one of the greatest economists of our time, said that when a government is facing slow growth, high unemployment, and stagflation, they should engage in some fiscal and monetary policy. The fiscal policy, he says, pump money into the economy by building roads, by building bridges and housing. When you spend money on the economy, when you invest, when you pump money by building roads and bridges and houses, you create employment. When people are employed, people spend money, they buy stuff. When shops sell, factories produce, and the economy grows. That is what we are doing as a country. We are investing in infrastructure. Most of the borrowings are used to invest in infrastructure, and infrastructure is the foundation for any development. All countries borrow in the world. What is important is what you do with the money. But President Barrow's government hasn't taken more loan than the previous government. But these are legacy debts. Like I said, they were there before the president came, but they have to be paid. State is a continuation.
It's a continuation.
But also, the interest rates go up.
And the loan you are taking now, the next government after Barrow, it will continue paying.
But we are focusing
when you will have gone.
Yeah, but that is how the all countries work in the system. That all countries survive on loans. Currently today, our GDP to debt ratio is 68%. America, the EU countries are over 100% on average for the EU countries. So obviously we are doing better, and in fact we've even come down from 70-something to 68%. So we are not borrowing more. Currently the Gambia government is focusing on local resource mobilization. Most of our financing in investments are from local funds, by making sure that GRA expands revenue, the tax base, but also enforces compliance.
They targeted 23 billion this year.
And that's what I'm
I don't know what they're targeting next
almost
year.
Out of the 59 billion that is budgeted for this year, almost 35 billion will come from the government local funds. And we don't do borrowing, and now we focus more on grants and concessional loans, and we don't do like that old school borrowing anymore. So I think we're on right track economically, and I think we need to commend the president and his team for doing a very good job.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, the Gambia's Minister of Information. President Barrow couldn't have appointed a better information minister than Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. Doctor, thank you so much for being on the program. Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of your weekly State of Affairs program. Do join us next week. Until then, remember, national development is a collective effort, and we must all serve in the best interests of the country. Bye-bye.